Are you letting in as much joy as you possibly can in any given moment? Or is this even a question you've ever contemplated in the past? If the answer to either of these is no, then today's topic is especially for you. Welcome. I'm Clark Korb, a holistic health practitioner offering some pragmatic insights to help you live a happier, more empowered life and embody your optimum potential. Today's topic builds upon the concept of being fully present as it relates to allowing in the maximum amount of joy possible in any given context or moment of time. And I'm going to start by relating a personal story I had attending a concert. I love taking in live music, and so this is one of my sort of happy places, if you will. And a friend of mine recommended that I explore this a little further as a topic here in terms of giving a little bit more insight as to how I embody some of the practices I talk about on the channel. So, having joy while attending a concert might sound like a no brainer, and hopefully to those of us music lovers, it is. And given that, there are still opportunities for things to go awry. And I thought I would share a little bit about how my process was recently in attending a concert and practicing the very kinds of things that I talk about here. And specifically, this is with allowing as much joy, squeezing as much juice if you can out of any given event, and allowing as much joy as possible to come through. So, in the pre planning of this, months ago, I noticed a band was going to be in town that had regrouped that I hadn't seen in many years. And I happily purchased a ticket knowing that I was excited about seeing the band coming up and liked the venue where they were playing. The week of the concert, there was a potential snag that came up where I received an email that there was going to be an option to pre purchase parking for $50 for the event. Now, this venue typically has had allowed for expensive parking in the past on the order of $30 to $35, and I just thought this is insane that this has continued to go up and up. And so, rather than being kind of teed off about that, I just set an intention for finding a better alternative. I considered Ubering. I thought maybe I'll take the public transit. We have a trolley system here in San Diego, or possibly parking further away at an alternative structure and taking a pedicab or walking a further distance. And I thought, what would allow for the best possible experience in this whole element for me? And knowing that I was going to be leaving my office and heading to the concert without having a chance to eat during the day, I had enough time, just barely, to grab a bite to eat and get to the concert. And I thought, I'm going to specifically decide to eat at a restaurant in the area that has nearby or street parking that I can find and just walk to the event. And so, as it turns out, the night of the event, literally just like I'd planned, I found easy, in fact, free street parking, which is not the common experience in San Diego. I waltzed into the place where I was planning to have dinner, found a seat at a bar, and chatted with other people who happened to show up there that were going to be attending the same concert. After a lovely dinner, I enjoyed roughly a 15-minute walk going from the restaurant to the venue itself. And this is really a fantastic place to see a concert. In San Diego, thankfully, we're blessed with amazing weather. And especially on a summer night, this place, it's called The Shell. And it's literally on a peninsula at our port area, and it's surrounded by water on both sides. It was a little bit before sunset. Temperature was perfect in the low 70s. I was appreciating the calm vibe of the crowd and taking my seat on a comfy padded chair. And the performance began. The musicians were great, as expected and anticipated. The venue has this amazing sound system, and I really felt like I was attending a personal concert in my own backyard. Truly enjoyable evening, start to finish. At the end of the concert, I enjoyed roughly that 15-minute walk, and by the time I arrived at my car, I noticed that I'd added an extra 2,000 steps to my day looking at my watch, and jumped in my car and headed home without dealing with any of the rush of people leaving parking structures that I have in the past when attending concerts at this venue. And I had a traffic-free drive home. So in short, I had a truly immersive and joyful experience from start to end, including the kind of boring logistic piece of finding parking and wondering how I get into and out of the event in a smooth fashion. So this really isn't a new experience for me in terms of finding ways to milk the maximum amount of joy I can out of an experience. It's kind of been my standard operating procedure for a while to look for excuses to either express appreciation or to marvel at something, to find joy in something. And my friend that suggested I relate this story pointed out that that's not an average behavior and that it would be more useful to break down a little bit about how one can go about doing this intentionally. So, given this story, I thought this would be a great way to point out what potentially could have been blocks to allowing maximum of joy. And maybe some of these would be relatable to you in one way or another. So I think one thing that can take people out of that joy experience is simply a lack of focus or being distracted. If you're stressing out about what went on during the day prior to an event or wherever you're at, or what may ensue afterward, that can very much take you out of the moment of enjoying anything. I'm using the concert in this example. The other thing that distraction can do is keep you from noticing the magic that's going on around you, the serendipitous events or unexpected things to marvel or look at, such as maybe you see as I'm walking along the dock, a boat that's beautiful to look at, or a dog. I'm a dog lover, so seeing someone's happy dog. If you're staring at your phone the whole time, you're kind of missing out on the whole larger world around you, for example. Some place where focus can actually work against you is if you're focusing on something that is not joyful. So even in the midst of this concert, you might tend to look at things in more of the pessimistic view. In other words, I could have looked at this as, wow, gosh, I had a 15-minute walk each way from my car to the venue, even though it was free parking. I could also have chosen to look at, gosh, I'm at this concert on my own instead of having a buddy or a date or someone to go with. And instead, that really didn't even enter my mind. I looked at this as, I am so happy to see this group. And if I were forced to think about it, I guess I could look at it like, I don't have to worry about somebody that's with me maybe not enjoying the show as much as I do. I don't have to sort of tend to their appreciation or lack thereof of it. It allows me to be truly focused in the moment on what I love. Another thing that I think keeps people out of joy is disillusionment. So this is when a person is operating on an idea of what would bring you joy based on some sort of fabrication, which typically stems from someone else's value system, where the reality of something can be very different from the idea of what that is. And by the way, when this happens, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I tend to look at disillusionment as a mechanism that provides contrast, and this contrast helps you inform your true desires for future experiences. In other words, you're getting a little bit of an education on, I thought for whatever reason that this might be a joyful experience, and it turns out didn't really do it for me. I'll know this going forward. So the disillusionment isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's something that can take you, maybe mitigate your joy a little bit in the moment. And the biggest thing I think that keeps people from being in joy is ultimately belief systems. I did a video on this a little while back on cultivating your beliefs, and it is super powerful, especially in this particular context. If you have, for example, a belief in a zero-sum game that if you have too much joy, then there's going to be something traumatic or bad happen to nullify it, then you might be self-limiting your experience of joy in an attempt to keep you safe from experiencing a future traumatic event. And especially if this is a subconscious belief system, this is an easy thing to help kill joy in this sense, be a killjoy in this sense. Another belief system is worthiness or the lack thereof, not feeling worthy of nice things. This is why we can't have nice things or enjoy nice things. You might feel a sense of guilt, a belief system that your being happy or your experiencing joy somehow takes away the joy of someone else. And it really doesn't. Akin to this is the idea of healthy selfishness. There might be a belief system you have that being healthy in giving to yourself is in some way a bad thing. I would suggest that all of these above examples are belief systems that very much work against your experiencing optimum joy. So how can you allow more joy in your life? And like all things, it really starts with an intention. One of my favorite authors, Esther Hicks, has said, no matter where I'm going and no matter what I'm doing, it is my dominant intent to see that which I am wanting to see. So I consider this a way of embodying, I'm wanting to see something that is good, that makes me feel good, that allows joy, allows my experience of joy. So if you set your intention or your orientation to allowing joy, that's really the first step. So on top of this, then there's the notion of being present, avoiding the distractions or the misdirected focus that I was alluding to earlier. And I released a video on this earlier on the gift of presence. If you haven't checked that out, I'll put a link in the description below for you to take a look at that one. So once you have an intention or an orientation to experience joy, to allow joy, and you're truly present in the moment, wherever you're at, whatever context you're in, really give yourself the permission to marvel or to be in awe of your surroundings. And I look at this really as noticing the little things, the detailed things, grounding yourself, breathing fully, really engaging your senses, looking for details in the environment. Look for, maybe you enjoy people watching. listening for distant or unusual sounds, savoring the smell of fresh air or the taste of food if you're at a restaurant, appreciating the feel of a comfortable chair that you're in, or maybe the weather is beautiful, or if you're inside of a theater, a beautiful theater, to notice the woodwork in the stage, or if you're about to watch a play, to pay attention to the detail in the fabrication of the set, for example. Any of these things. I'm picking just examples for entertainment, but you can find this detail oriented approach to appreciation really anywhere. And another piece I love from Esther Hicks's work is really setting that expectation to be surprised and delighted by what life has to offer you. Expecting to be surprised and delighted, which almost sounds like an oxymoron if you have an expectation about surprise, because surprise defies expectations in the sense. But really, this is allowing yourself to be open to experience this kind of spontaneous joy. And the more you condition yourself to observe this, or to be set up to allow and feel joy, the more reasons you'll find to observe this joy. In other words, you'll have your very own confirmation bias working for you on your behalf. So, in what aspects of life are you wanting to experience more joy? And what steps are you willing to take in order to make that happen? Let me know in the comments below. If you know of anyone who may benefit from what I've shared here today, please forward this video to them. And if you found some value in what I've discussed, I would greatly appreciate your giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. It's free, it takes only seconds to do, and it really helps support the growth of this channel. Thank you for tuning in.